This is Going Under, Anesthesia Answered with Dr. Brian Schmutzler. I'm your host, Vahid Sadrzadeh, and this is not your typical podcast. If you're wondering why we're driving in the car, we are actually in Chicago just after a golf outing. Brian was hot. Literally no warm-up, and this guy was like 10 under for the round.
I was physically hot.
On a championship course.
It's a complete lie. I was probably 50 over.
How many lessons have you taken, Brian, in the last 30 years?
7, maybe?
7 in the last 30. He said, I quote, "This is my first time on
Playing
a golf
around,
course
yep.
in 30 years." And he had the golf clubs to prove it.
The golf clubs are older than I am.
Yeah, I suppose. They were nice, though. Callaway's? Not too bad. That gets you some. That gives you some rep in the golf community, right, Jay?
They actually said Jack Nicklaus on them too.
Wow, the bear.
The actor?
No,
Oh,
that's Jack. Oh, Jack Nicholson. Jack Nicholas.
Well, actually, I think Jack Nicholson might have played a little bit better.
oh.
Wow.
Ouch.
And he's in Beverly Hills and didn't play with us.
And he's dead. I mean,
No, he's alive.
Is he? Okay,
Yeah,
all
he's
right,
alive.
All right.
A very special podcast. We are doing a kind of a road trip podcast. We're kind of trying it out for the first time. We got to hold our mics kind of closer. So Brian, he's driving safely.
Focusing.
Always focusing on the road, but a very special podcast. Brian, I'm going to let you introduce some of these folks that you clearly work with and are friends with, and joined us for the golf outing.
So yeah, awesome. So the golf outing, Vahid sponsored that, Vahid and VSR Media. So if you want to plug that at the end, we can do that too. Great time. Brought with us Jay Biesenthal, who's behind me. Wave there.
What up, Jay?
Hey.
Jay, I've known for years. Jay's a CRNA, and we work together at a lot of different places, all over Indiana, soon to be Ohio, right? You're getting a Ohio license? Okay.
You're working on it, yep.
Wonderful.
Still trying to get my trailer there.
Yeah.
That'll come up in
story.
another conversation.
No, we're gonna tell that story today, I think. So
you
Jay,
want to come with me?
No, I'm not going to get a trailer.
Well, we can go see our friends.
Yeah, I've seen them today. I'm good.
I'm good.
He's good.
I'm sorry, guys.
He's good
he
for
met
a
his
while.
quota for
That's
the.
right.
So Jay and I have known each other for years. We started working together at a surgery center, and then we've worked together several places since. And then actually a good friend of Jay's and somebody I just met today, Jim, and it's Beebout, right? Okay, great. And then after I introduce you, there you go. After I introduce you guys, I'll have you guys say a little bit about yourselves because I'm not doing it justice. But Jim is also CRNA. They've known Jay for a long time, and a really good golfer too. Both Jay and Jim are
phenomenal,
good golfers. Saved our day because Vahid and I would have been probably still be out there 7 hours later. So, Jay, why don't you start? Go ahead and introduce yourself. Just a little background on what you do, who you are.
Yeah, my name is Jay Biesenthal. I've been doing anesthesia for the last 20 years. Primarily in North Carolina, and then moved up to the Midwest, originally from Michigan, and now I currently am the chief CRNA over at Parkview Huntington in Huntington, Indiana. And
Huntington. Oh wait, no,
Huntington.
you dropped the T. You automatically.
Is it Huntington?
Yeah, it's Huntington.
Or Huntington?
No, so there's two T's
I go
in
Huntington.
it. There's two T's in it, but you drop the first T just because you feel like it.
Okay, it's a silent T.
I'm not bitter.
Sounds like you are.
Sorry, Jay. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, so like I said, I've been doing anesthesia for 20 years. My buddy Jim here was the one that actually talked me into going into anesthesia. So I owe him, forever indebted to him for getting me into this great profession. And yeah.
So where were you before, Jay?
I was living in North Carolina after moving down from Michigan. I was a nurse for about 7 years, and then he talked me into going into anesthesia, and yeah, I've been doing it ever since. So
Nice. Where did you guys and Jim? Why don't you introduce yourself, and then I'd like to know where you guys met.
Yeah, Jim, scoot over a little bit.
I'm gonna slide
Let's
over.
get cozy in the back seat. It's like taxi cab confessions over here.
It pretty much is. So Jim Beebout was a nurse for 8 years. Went back, basically traveled a bit with my wife. Then we went to Raleigh, North Carolina. I got into anesthesia school down there. Practiced down there a couple years, and then moved back to Ohio, Marion. Practiced there 18 years. Then last 4 years I've been with Avita. health systems, and so that's the professional thing. Great story about how I met Jay is my wife worked with him in the CVICU and kept coming home saying, "There's this guy that reminds me so much of you. You've got to meet him." And I laughed at her and said, "Yeah, you're not setting me up on a date." And she set us up on a golf date, and we've been friends ever since.
Aw.
A golf date.
That's
A golf
cute.
date.
We've literally gone to Mexico together multiple times. We've
All over.
I'm trying to golf in every state, and I've dragged him along.
Yep.
So we have literally been friends for 25 years now ish. And yeah,
So, and you guys actually golf championships together, like club championships together? Is that right?
Last
rumor.
year, last year,
Or is that
we
one of those
won.
like fishing stories that you?
No. It's actually a true story. Last year we have an invitational, a member invitational at the club I belong to in Fort Wayne, and I invited Jim here to come and play, and we ended up winning the entire thing, much to the chagrin of all the other guys there. So
That's awesome.
it was great talking a lot of smack for the last year.
So let's just tell the folks here what your handicaps are on the golf course.
Yeah. Last year we were around 11, 12.
Yep.
This year it's kind of ballooned up to about 15, 16.
Brian would take that, and we'll
Oh,
take that
yeah,
out.
yeah,
we would take that in a heartbeat.
That's my first hole. I got handicap. I
Yeah,
got
we-
handicap at 15 on my first hole.
We've definitely
on a
been
par
working.
3 or a par
Yeah.
4.
It doesn't matter.
Well, 15 was that 15 balls or 15 handicap for you,
Oh,
Brian?
yeah, per hole. 15
Right,
handicap per hole.
exactly, yes.
Boy, what is that handicap?
Well, 15 times 18, a lot.
Yeah, I
220?
don't think I think they cap it at a certain amount.
So let me ask each of you guys this question. What was the reason that motivated you from
Going from a nurse
nurse
to
to
being a CRNA, yeah.
CRNA? Like, what was the impetus for you guys to make the transition?
you're gonna hate my answer, but I went to Ohio State. I partied a little bit too much, could not get into med school, flat out. Yep. And so then I went to nursing, and it was really funny because they basically said, "Jim, we don't understand your grades. You've got like a 3.9 in science, but your math grade is not there." So yeah, I knew a CRNA that was friends of my mother, and yeah, I went to anesthesia school. Things clicked, everything fell in line, and that was it. So yeah, really like anesthesia though. I mean,
Yeah, I guess for me, the reason I got into it initially was, I was making decent money as a nurse, but I was also working 2 full-time jobs, and I looked at this other profession, anesthesia, and saw that the reward could be really, really good if you can get through the program and you know pass the classes, pass the boards, and all that stuff. So that's honestly the reason why I got into it. But once I got into it, it's one of the things that I honestly got when I tell people I love going to work every day. It's the God's honest truth. It's a profession that I absolutely love, and I'm pretty passionate about it. I want to see other people coming into the program or into the profession that are just as passionate about it and want to do a good job for people coming into the surgery, and providing a good anesthetic for people.
What is the and we ask, we've had conversations
Right.
with
Yeah,
CRNAs
yeah.
prior to this show, and Brian likes asking this question, and I think it's pertinent. Where do you, from where you've been to now, how has the growth of CRNAs been in your eyes, and where do you think anesthesia is particularly going with both CRNAs
And docs, yeah.
and docs, anesthesiologists?
um, yeah, that's a big question. Basically, CRNAs have really opened up league on the legal side of things, pushing the boundaries for writing, like giving us prescriptive authority in the hospital. Uh, that was kind of pushed quite a bit. Now we're all at a doctorate level, coming out in 2025. I think everybody's got to have a doctorate level at being a CRNA. Um, Anesthesia, everybody's getting ready to retire. Myself and Jay, we're on the twilight of our career. So when you look at the opening, it's wide open for anybody who wants to do this job. The money has gone increasingly up. Every time I think it hits a ceiling and you're like, it's not going up anymore, it goes up again.
Well, you guys
So
were just talking about that today, right? I mean, and are they different in different areas? So for CRNAs, you can make a bunch of money here, or it's a huge price difference over here. Is that true? In each community?
Yeah, I think in general the bigger cities typically pay less to all anesthesia providers, CRNAs or docs.
Why is that though? Because there's more
More people
of
want to
you?
live there. It's a supply and demand, basic supply and demand, right? Bigger supply because everybody wants to live in Chicago and Dallas and Austin, Texas, and New York City. Not a lot of people want to live in Huntington, Indiana.
well, and there's also, I don't know if this is the same as the anesthesiologist, but it also matters where the schools are located. So in Ohio, if you look around Cleveland, they're saturated. The price gets down, or it gets capped, kind of because you got more students coming out on a more steady basis. Toledo, Akron, Youngstown. In fact, the northeast of our state is kind of a lower salary if you look at the general salaries. But if you jump, like Central Columbus got Otterbein now, they're associated with Ohio University in Dublin in Central Ohio. But so it depends where the schools are, how many students are pumping out. Does that, keep the salaries where they are? And I would assume that's the same for you guys, or what do you think, Brian?
Yeah, I mean it's a supply and demand issue. You
What
know,
is the difference? I mean, like percentage wise, from like a big city to a smaller community.
so anesthesiologists probably 10 to 15%. You guys would have to answer on CRNAs.
Uh, I'd say it's at least that.
At least that, if not more.
Yeah, I'd say it might be even a little bit more, especially in the rural area. Um, I definitely in the rural area, you're going to make more money as opposed to living in Chicago or a big city, as you alluded to.
So I guess this is a loaded question, but from your time as a nurse or like in nursing to being a CRNA, from how much school was involved, is the percentage of pay increase worth the amount of schooling that it is required to become a CRNA? If there is this opening for anesthesia providers, is that jump worth it for people?
Absolutely, absolutely, no doubt about it.
You're gonna make at least 3 times more.
3 times.
Yeah.
It just, yeah. I mean, there from what you've said, there just seems to be a huge opening
Yeah, there really
in
is.
anesthesia providers coming up. I mean, I know you said there's a lack of anesthesiologists.
Yeah, lack of both. The CRNA route is not capped by Medicare, right? So anesthesia residency spots are capped by Medicare. So we'll never make more per year of anesthesia residents. It's gonna be the same amount unless they change the CMS payments. CRNAs, there's more schools coming up. They're able to produce CRNAs at the demand level, right? So if the demand goes up, more CRNA schools can open, or they can take more students at the CRNA schools and basically churn those out, as opposed to anesthesiologists. Well, I mean, I don't see any way we ever catch up, especially once the baby boomers start retiring. So, yeah, I think there's a huge opportunity in anesthesia, but in particular in the CRNA realm, where that's expanding a whole lot more.
I want to ask you guys one more question before we get to the main topic, because when I was sitting there listening to the presentation after the golf outing, a thought came into my head, and I want to ask you guys today for the main topic. But before we get to that, what's the one piece of advice you both would give to up and coming CRNAs who are thinking about jumping into the profession for the first time? A piece of advice that either impressed you while you were going through the process or have been working in it, or just overall thoughts.
Um, for me, and I've told this to plenty of students that have come through, is you truly have to be passionate about what you're doing. You just can't come into the profession and say, okay, I want to do this profession just because I want to make a lot of money. You truly have to be passionate about taking care of people and providing a service that, I mean, you think about it, you got people coming in for surgery that are really hyped up. Could be the first time they've ever been in surgery before. You know, they hear horror stories about, you know, family members or something on TV or in the news. So it's your job to basically comfort them, put them at ease. So you literally have about 5 minutes to develop a rapport with them, put them at ease, and just let them know that, hey, everything's going to be okay. You know, you're going to be fine. We do this all the time, and I try to impress upon the students that you got to have that compassionate care.
The bedside manner.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yep. Yeah, and I would say, yeah, they're sick and scared, and so what they want to be, they want to be treated kindly, and they want to basically have somebody tell them it's all going to be okay. And it's a little bit difficult because we can't say like you're going to always can't we can't always say you're going to be fine, right?
Right.
Sometimes risky surgeries, open heart surgery, dead bowel, that sort of stuff, you can't tell them they're going to be fine, but you can at least have the compassion, which I think obviously
And
these
humor
guys
goes
do.
a long
Yeah,
way.
true.
If you can make someone laugh, I mean, it just breaks the ice right away.
Jay has a dry sense of humor, so
Extremely dry.
sometimes the patients don't totally understand. But then they get it like as they're going to sleep. They're like,
They're like,
"Oh,
oh yeah, I
yeah,
got it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah."
Do they ever remember afterwards?
Not usually. Not
No.
usually.
I always
No.
remember what I'm talking about going to sleep. Always.
Really?
Really?
Oh yeah, my last
Oh,
surgery.
you're
No,
just
no,
not
not
getting
the case. No,
you're-
no, no. What you talking about before?
You're
Yeah,
just not getting enough
my,
verse said that.
my last surgery was a year and a half ago, and I remember I got it in Chicago in a surgery center in Chicago, and I was talking major smack about deep dish Chicago style pizza to the provider that was probably from Chicago and loved deep dish pizza, and I'm like, it's garbage. You know, I already had the stuff in my system at that point. That's what I'm blaming it on.
Totally
So-
disinhibited.
So I woke up and I'm like, man, I'm really sorry for talking trash about pizza.
They probably didn't even remember.
No,
They're like,
probably
"What?
not.
This is whatever."
Yeah. So what about you, Jim?
Oh, what was the original question again? What would I tell a student?
Yeah, what's
What's
your
your
best
piece of
advice? Your
Um,
best advice for people wanting to do anesthesia?
I will say, not only did I talk Jay into going to anesthesia, I've been a pretty strong advocate for pushing ICU nurses or high school seniors. I've had a lot of people come in the OR and shadow me, and so to me, that's one of the big things I try to push forward is getting people in the OR, see what we do. You know what I mean? Cardiac respiratory. That's our big. In pharmacology is obviously the three things that make anesthesia what we are. And so that's where I think I've, at least in my career, have done very well is pushing people or explaining things, showing them what we do and what it takes to get there, and explain to them you're going to have to study. You think you studied in nursing? No, you need to study. You need to hit the books. You need to.
Would
I
you
mean-
guys both do it again? Oh, sorry, you had one more. You had
Well,
something else you were going to
what
say.
I was going to say is, yeah, I mean, Jay and I went to the same program. I think we had 2,000 some hours of clinical time, not counting the study time, not counting anything like that. But you were in clinical a lot. It's a very hands-on learning approach.
Physical
Um,
too. I mean, there's a lot of
Physical?
you're standing up a lot of the day. You're moving patients around. You're giving drugs. I mean, it's fairly physically demanding depending on where you are and what you're doing.
You can sit in a room, a long case, a long room, but there's days I put 7, 8,000 like steps on my watch without even blinking. But yeah, no, and it's fun because you do OB, you do GYN, you do orthopedics, you do ENT, you do urology. So there's always a difference. Bariatrics. I'm trying to think of everything.
Yeah,
We're in
open
everything.
heart,
Yeah.
thoracics, yeah.
You're in everything that vascular or whatever, but you're doing something a little different. So it's not stale. You go in, you do your job, you have fun, and work with different people. It's great.
Every day's different.
So what Vahid was getting ready to ask, there's one thing we ask every guest who comes on. Well, there's two. I'll save the second one for the end because that's a bigger topic. But there's one thing, we're gonna ask every guest. So
If the moon landing was real? Was that-
no, we're not getting
what?
into no, we're not
I
doing
said if the
conspiracy.
moon landing was
We're
real.
not doing
No,
conspiracy
it's
theories.
not. It
Just
was
stop.
not real.
Just stop,
So
stop the conspiracy.
that'll be later.
Just edit this out.
Me, I
Edit
was
this
saying,
out.
yeah,
Edit this out.
Edit this out.
I
Edit
don't
this
have
out.
an editing program.
Oh
I can't do
man.
that.
So would you do it again? And if not, or even if so, what career would you have chosen? Like if someone said to you, you cannot be in medicine, or you can't be a nurse, you can't be a CRNA, what would you do instead? So first question, would you do it again? Second question, if you didn't or couldn't, what would you do?
First question, absolutely 100%. I would do it over again, given the choice. Secondly, if I could not do that, I would have followed my career in baseball.
Nice.
100%.
What position?
Shortstop, second base.
And your team is?
Like professional?
Yep.
Tigers, unfortunately.
Oh, the Tigers.
Yeah, I mean, we're having a better year this year, so
Long-suffering Detroit.
well, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All
That's
right.
awesome.
Yeah.
So you both are in sports. That's interesting.
Well, I'm better.
And I would say for me, I would do it again. Absolutely. God, if you took it away from me, where would I go? I would definitely end up in medicine. I definitely gravitated that way. I just don't know what I would have done. Wow. Physical therapy. I had a hot physical therapist, taught me anatomy, and I would have followed her down that
We
trail.
may have to edit this out.
Does
No,
that work?
no, no,
Does that
no.
work,
I'm
guys?
sorry.
Yeah.
What's
Does
your
that
wife's
work?
name?
Huh?
What's your wife's name?
Tara, and she's not a physical therapist, but she was a hot nurse, and I followed down that trail.
Good for you.
Nice shout out to the wife, though. I
Hey,
like it.
yeah.
listen. I mean, there's in everything that we do, there's somebody that encourages us.
For
and
one
whether it's a
reason or
hot
another,
nurse
yeah.
or whatever, physical therapist or whatever it is.
All right, Vahid, what was the main topic that we're going to talk about today?
All right, so we just got back from this golf tournament that is kind of near and dear to my heart because it's Wish Forever. And if you don't know, I'll link it below. Essentially, they give back to adolescents and try to make their wishes come true. Adolescents that have cancer, terminal cancer, or, all kinds of cancers, but basically helping those families as much as possible because they lost a brother and a son to cancer 12 years ago. So since then, they've been trying to give back. So every year we go to this
Golf outing.
golf outing, and VSR, we try to give back because, they gave to our family when we needed it the most. And so essentially it's near and dear to our heart. But while we were listening to two of these patients and recipients who have received grants from Wish Forever, I was thinking in my head, I'm like, these are so inspirational and like good for them for wanting to share their story. But is there ever a time, and I'm sure you've gotten this question before, all of you, is there ever a time where you feel connected or attached to a case? I know, like, I don't know if it's a taboo question to ask,
Yeah,
but like you're supposed to be detached,
right.
right? In the news business, we're never really attached to the story unless we follow it, right? Or we're telling a story that we become attached to. And is it the same for medicine? I mean, do you get attached to cases, to patients? Has that ever happened to you?
I'll let Jay and Jim talk first, but I can think personally of a couple of cases that for me did. So what do you guys say?
Yeah, absolutely. Not so. I mean, not so much. I think when I've been in anesthesia, when I was a nurse, though, taking care of patients, I took care of pulmonary cystic fibrosis patients, and if you know anything about that, you would see them on a regular basis in the hospital. And I got very attached to one of the patients who and her family, and just you know obviously the goal at the time was to get a double lung transplant. She did, and she didn't make it, and still to this day it just kind of chokes me up. Um, yeah, it was just a really kind of like the people that we heard from today. I mean, I'm sitting there listening to these people talk, and I'm getting choked up just listening to their story and thinking about that lady. And it's just yeah, you do get attached. I mean, for me personally, I did. So you
And
okay?
how do you handle that? How do you
Uh,
deal is not the right word, but like how do you handle those emotions? Knowing that you have to come back to you come back
yeah.
and
I mean, basically, you do. I don't want to say you tamp it down.
Yeah. You
Um,
have to hide it while you're in the moment.
you
But yeah,
do.
I mean, it's certainly there's after the fact, I think there's a lot of us who, I mean, this is part of the burnout in medicine and stuff, right? Is that we do see patients that we get close to that either die or don't do well. And I mean, it's not often, right? Because I mean, medicine and anesthesia are very, very safe now, but there are times it happens. So, Jim, what do you think?
The only thing I'm going to add is it's probably the worst part of the job. Um, when you deal with this, i and even in anesthesia, I there's stories that I go back to in my head. Um, it's tough. That's it.
Yeah. I think back to a couple of cases, and I don't want to break any HIPAA issues. I had one obstetrics case that was tough. And yeah, the obstetrics cases are tough when either mom or baby doesn't make it. When I was working as a hospitalist, I think I was a resident. I may have been an intern or a resident. I can't remember in the ICU. Had a really tough case of a like pretty healthy guy who ended up with a really bad cancer. Who I saw for the entire rotation, right, an entire month. Saw him, saw his family, and so I mean, at when he did finally pass, I mean that was tough for sure. So I think yeah, we definitely get connected. I don't think not many of us show it, which you can argue is that good or bad, right? I mean, maybe it humanizes us as clinicians a little bit if we do, but we're taught to just do your job and handle your emotions on the back end. So
Yeah, and I've got in particular the one family that I was talking to or talking about. They actually, afterwards, after it was all said and done, they actually thanked me several times for actually showing emotion and grieving with them. And it just really it made an impact on them. It made an impact on me, and and that was literally 30 years ago, and it's still to this day. It just I think about that, and it still chokes you up.
well, thank you because
yeah,
you wonder, right?
yeah, as a patient for
As a
sure. Yeah, yeah.
patient, I wondered that today. As a patient, I wonder, is my physician, is my doctor, are the people around me, they're probably not emotionally invested into my situation or my case, but are they impacted by it? Are they touched by it? Do they care?
I think you can't get emotionally invested into every case, or you will never make it. You'll burn out in a month. But I think there are definitely cases that hit us harder than others. Look, probably a little bit less in anesthesia, just because you don't typically establish a long-term relationship with your patient in anesthesia. A lot of it is you see them and you have they do the surgery and then they kind of go away and do whatever they do. But there's still even some of that, particularly like we talked about in obstetrics, that can hit you hard. So
Well, thank you for that because I've always really wondered that, and I think today was it got my brain flowing about hey, maybe this could be a topic for our conversation today. Um, so Brian, you had a question before we wrapped up. Are we gonna do quick fire or no?
yeah, we'll do rapid fire. I have to ask one other question, and
Yeah.
then we'll do rapid fire questions. So the other question we ask every guest who comes on, is where do you see medicine going? And in particular, because we're in the anesthesia field, where do you see anesthesia going, right? We talk about, we're always, not always, we're often Debbie Downer, like we don't have enough anesthesia providers. We have too many sick patients. We have too many cases to do. The insurance companies, the hospitals, the whole thing. But where do you see medicine going? And then, you can kind of slant it towards anesthesia, which is, because it's obviously what we do.
I mean, I still think I continue to say it's going to be kind of like a continuation of what we're seeing now. I think there's always going to be a need. There's always going to be a shortage. I think you throw the insurance companies and Medicare and all that stuff in there. It kind of throws a wrench into stuff sometimes. Um, but yeah, I think it's going to be continuing on the way it is.
So you don't see any change in the demand. You don't see any change in the supply. You think things will.
I think there's going to be more of a demand than supply.
Okay. So you think it'll get worse than it
I think it's going
currently
to get
is?
a little
Okay.
worse, yeah. Which the older I get, I'm like, I hope there's people coming into the profession
Yeah.
that are going to want to be able to take care of myself. So
Yeah. Jim?
Good question, because like to me, I see this being a battle between social medicine, or socialized medicine, I should say, and private kind of medicine. So if you want to get more towards a Canadian, medical established care, or the Affordable Care Act and stuff like that, well, you know, my personal thing, I just went to the Affordable Care Act to buy insurance. Yeah, no. Um, I was shocked at how much they wanted a month from me. Um, it's not
Right.
affordable, right? I mean,
The
it's
non-affordable care act?
yeah. I mean, and so in America, I always laugh that hey, we are great at drive-through, McDonald's, Burger King, and that's kind of a lot of surgeries we do are that way. Um, and people don't want to wait. If you want to go to Canada and wait 6 months to have your urology guy see you or your cardiac guy see you, that's not how America is. You tell an American that, they will flip out. We do a lot of things after hours or on weekends, or that I don't think people realize, what the job entails. And that's one of the negatives, I would say, is like I've worked holidays, weekends, nights for years. Um, and that's just the way it is. It comes with the job. But yeah, so when I see medicine, I think that's, to me, that's the greatest battle. How much do you get to socialize medicine versus keep the way it is? And everybody thinks it's great that everybody should have health care, everybody should have this, but in that same umbrella of care, then people aren't working after 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and they're not doing stuff on weekends, and they're not doing stuff on holidays, and they're not. So and I just don't think Americans would stand for that.
Yeah, and I mean, there's also the rationing of care issue of socialized medicine, right? So if you're older than a certain age, you're not gonna get a total knee or total hip. I did a 99-year-old last week got a total hip, right? In Canada,
Wow.
that's unlikely to happen. Yeah, it was CN's case. You can talk to him about it.
I just did a revision of a revision of a hip. Yeah, I mean,
Right. Yeah, and that's never
I
gonna
want to get that person on camera.
You have to ask CN.
Yeah.
No, all right. And I appreciate everybody's perspective. We've brought a lot of different people on. We've brought on, orthopedic surgeons, family practice. We brought on another CRNA, but she does aesthetics as well. And so I like everybody's perspective on medicine. I would say so far, the one overarching theme is that essentially what we're doing is not working, right? I mean, that's the one thing that every single person says is
definitely could be better.
yeah.
But I just want to know what the alternatives are. Like what if it's not working, and it may not be working perfectly other places either, then what are some of the alternative? What are some of the solutions that can be brought to the table?
I mean, yeah, I'll let you guys have a
Hey, this
crack
is
at it.
maybe it's a discussion for
Yeah.
another day, but what are some
Go
of
for
those?
it.
I mean, I think we eliminate the insurance companies and we eliminate the
You
federal
just go straight
government
to
direct to consumer.
direct
Yeah.
consumer.
well, so the problem I see with that, or then because the government's going to step in and they're going to regulate our salaries.
No, you get rid of all of it. You get rid of insurance companies and Medicare and Medicaid. You got a safety net. Like you get in a car accident, the hospital's going to take care of you. But everything else, anything elective,
Boy.
primary care, everything goes to direct to consumer. And then
So what happens to those companies?
They go away. that we've talked
mean-
about the insurance companies before. The whole
companies are not
right,
your friend.
right.
No, right. But
they want to collect premiums and not pay
I
out.
mean, you think United Healthcare is just going to
Right.
fold up?
Billions? Yes, they'll have to. If we take a strong enough stand, they'll have to fold up, or let them go insure cars or whatever else, boats like
golf clubs.
golf.
I think that deserves more thinking,
Well,
but I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just like,
After seeing Brian swing, that would probably be a good.
Yeah. They'll never insure my golf clubs.
Well, they're going to be in the burn in the river pretty
have-
soon. So
They have a pre-existing condition.
yeah, exactly. Interesting question. Maybe we do another follow-up podcast and talk specifically about that, because I think it's an interesting topic, and we could spend another 25 minutes talking about it.
Well, we got plenty of time sitting in traffic. In
Well, that's
Chicago,
true.
so this podcast might be 6 hours long.
Um,
Let's do the rapid fire.
let's put 2 minutes on the clock, and let's do rapid fire questions with the three of you. All right, let's start and go. All right, Brian, if you had a bucket list location that you haven't visited yet, what
Fiji.
is it?
Fiji.
Fiji.
been there.
Wonderful. Took my place.
Jay?
Probably Belize.
Belize, cool.
You been there too, Jim?
No. I would have to say Istanbul.
Did you play golf in Fiji?
I did.
Oh, nice. All right, that leads me to question number 2. Jay, since you have the mic,
Uh-huh.
bucket list golf location or course. Brian, I'll just ask you to name a course.
Well, I mean,
Torrey
I would-
Pines.
yeah,
Wow, that was a good one.
bucket list. If I could, which I'll never be able to, I would have to play Augusta.
Oh, that's
I would have to play. That would be the one.
All right. Same, Jim?
I'll go Augusta. I'll go with Jay.
Yeah,
Obviously,
exactly.
Torrey
So-
Pines for
so,
Mr. Anesthesiologist.
yeah,
over here.
if-
That's
if
the
I-
one in San Diego, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I drove past it when I was out there for a conference. It looked nice.
So if I could get a raise, can we we can go to Augusta?
Ba-na-na-na-na-na.
What's the next question? Sorry.
Yeah. Question number 3. If you had to stick with one specialty, working with one specialty forever, which one would you choose? Brian?
Orthopedics. It's what I do mostly now. Anyway.
Orthopedics, hands down.
Yeah, orthopedics is easy. I like it. Straightforward a lot.
We can't see Jim. He's just a talking person.
Sorry.
That's it.
Yeah, orthopedics. But yeah, I've done it all. I mean,
Healthier patients, usually elective, lots of blocks, procedures. Yeah, I mean, orthopedics is fun. And it reimburses well if you care about that kind of thing.
If you had to go to one sporting event the rest of your life, which one would it be?
Jim?
Only one.
hockey.
Like
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 the
Stanley Cup?
Yeah,
Okay.
or the Penguins. I'll go watch my Penguins.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. Hockey,
Wow.
Red Wings, love it.
Got some
Like
hockey
to be
fans in
to
here.
be there, like at the,
When they're lifting the cup.
well, or just like to me that sport when you're there is way better
Oh, absolutely.
there.
I think probably college football national championship.
Notre Dame?
That's not gonna
Do you think
happen.
they're
Come visit me in
I
Columbus
don't know.
next year.
We're gonna play the song that you didn't sing today, so
We're
um,
gonna play the fight
the
song.
fight
She'll
song.
even he's a Notre
Notre
Dame
Dame?
Yeah,
fan.
yeah. A grad fan have to be.
and not that we want to make this about, because experiences I think are better than personal belongings, right? But I always like talking about cars. I consider myself a car guy. Dream car? Are you driving it, or what would it be?
I'm not driving my dream car. I love my Toyota Tundra, but no, my dream car has always been the BMW 850 IS, which I don't know that they make the 850. I don't know what it's called now.
You
but
can
it's-
find those on the
it's-
market.
But I mean, they've adapted it into something. I can't remember what it's called now, but it's the same car, just newer. But still love that.
That shocks me. I did not know this
Oh,
about
man.
you.
I love it.
Wow.
So
Two-door?
No, it's a two-door. It's 2 inline sixes that fire at the same time. It's like a whatever you call it. It's a V12, but it's 2 inline sixes. It's a cool car. I used to drive them. There was somebody in Zionsville who had one when I grew up there, and I was working at the auto shop. That I used to drive it around. It's the coolest car ever. So
Nice. Jay?
'69 Camaro big block hideaway lights.
What are hideaway lights?
You know, the kind of lights that
Like that flip up and down,
flip
the
up and down.
Corvette kind of thing?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, nice.
Not a car guy. I'll take a truck every day of the week, and that's it. Just give me a nice big truck.
A beautiful 2017 Toyota Tundra.
Well, yeah, this is not a bad truck.
No, this is a nice truck.
Glowing endorsement.
Great acoustics, by the way,
Yeah,
for a
right.
podcast.
All right.
Well, I think that that sign is the is the end of our 2-minute warning. Well, guys, I mean, have we covered everything today that we want to talk about, Brian?
I think so. Do you guys have anything else you wanna bring up? It was kind of a mishmash of things, but I really like, and Vahid, thanks for bringing up. I like the sort of
Car podcast?
no, well, I like the car podcast, but I like sort of the heartfelt, discussion that we got into. I really enjoyed that, which we're usually more kind of lighthearted and funny. So I think that was a good thing to add. So
Yeah, I think, listen, I always try and ask questions that other patients may be asking in their brain. People who are listening to this that are not medical providers. Because, I mean, when it comes down to it, 50% of the population
more than
or
that,
the
probably.
listening
Yeah,
population
yeah,
are
the listening,
not
yeah.
medical providers. So as a medical provider, maybe it's good to know what patients are thinking. And for anybody going into it, and I know you have a lot of students who listen to the podcast. So, guys, thank you so much. Maybe we should do this again and go to another golf course.
That'd be great.
Anytime.
We'll start a whole series of car podcasts.
We got to get you some clubs. I think that's so. United Health Insurance, if you're listening.
Yeah, right, yeah. You want to be a sponsor of the podcast?
Oh boy, I don't know if you want to do that.
Well, first we got to get them clubs.
Okay.
And then we got to get you a swing because
Nike, are you listening?
Because I've seen better swings on a porch.
Oh.
He wasn't that bad.
Nah, he went that.
He
wasn't
carried us on some of the.
you know what he did, and I apologize. You actually came through
Yeah.
on one hole.
We'll show his swing online for
This
the
is
folks at home.
glowing endorsement. You guys can walk if you want. I mean, I can let you off right here. You guys
Yeah,
want to walk?
listen, I'm a huge fan of this 2017 Toyota Tundra. Okay?
Especially right now.
One
in
of our
Chicago.
Turbo
sponsors.
V6,
Yeah, right,
V8,
right.
whatever. It
doesn't
sounds
matter,
great.
Yeah.
One of the sponsors today.
We don't have any sponsors yet.
Yeah,
so-
the Tundra.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. 2017 Toyota.
Yeah,
Tundra.
getting
Brought
us
to you
home.
by Rode
Yeah.
Wireless because they your Ray-Ban sunglasses
Ooh, I like it. Yeah, Liquid Death, although I don't have one right by
and
me.
VSR Media.
At VSR Media, yeah,
That's
right.
Well, guys, thanks so much
Yeah.
for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having us on.
Yeah. All right. And tell your friends. Again, this podcast comes out every Thursday. So if you're watching this on YouTube, of course, we're on YouTube. And Dr. Brian Schmutzler, of course, is on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. I don't know. You name it, he's on it.
Dr. Dreamy.
Oh, wow. All right.
You're like the new age Dr. McDreamy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
Yeah. I think everybody would agree, especially your wife.
Yes,
Yeah.
especially my wife.
Yeah.
Happily married.
Brought to you by Quail.
Yeah. This is true. This is a Quail
This,
ring.
this has been Going Under Anesthesia Answered with Dr. Brian Schmutzler. We'll see you in the next one.